Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for day 5 of the Light Wellness Experience workshop. Today is the final day for this year's first workshop round. We did things a little bit differently this year. We looked at the workbook that we've already filled out from the 5 sessions of last year and broke down those uh, different pieces of information and all of those metrics and light applications in a new way to make creating light wellness solutions more tangible and more realistic for you. So I hope that you found value in all of the information and tips that have been shared over the last 4 days. We are going to wrap up this year's round with the value of investment versus the return on investment conversation. And, one of the kind of biggest things that comes out of the light and health market, particularly from a lighting trade side, is one of the first questions is what kind of return am I going to get on this, right? When you're investing in something, when you're paying out in order to receive some sort of a benefit, you want to know what that return is going to be. Okay, it's very easy to calculate when you have something like energy savings. Oh, I'm going to pay 30% more for a single light bulb, but I'm going to be saving 90% in my energy costs. That's my return on investment, right? Is that financial indicator. Yeah, I'm spending a little bit more now, but what am I saving later? Or what am I getting back in return later, right? I'm investing in a printer and a fax machine, but that's going to help me be able to market more. So I'm going to be able to reach more clients more quickly. So there are lots of different ways that you can look at that return on investment. Think about a way that you have invested monetarily in something in order to receive a return on investment in terms of a financial indicator. Now let's think about investing in something, whether that's using a time resource or a monetary resource, right? Or maybe a connection resource, and looking at what that value of investment is, which is not a primary financial indicator. Typically, value of investment returns are seen as health indicators, clinical indicators, productivity indicators, performance indicators that eventually yield some sort of financial return that can be calculated as a financial indicator. So I'm going to read this off very quickly. And actually, you know what? It's already up. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so you can see it this time again as well. Here we go. So, a return on investment, that financial indicator versus that value of investment, financial indicators and net savings, participation indicators, preventative screening indicators, health risk indicators, clinical indicators, utilization indicators, productivity indicators, and shareholder value. What does this actually mean? From a preventative screening and health risk and net savings perspective, even from a clinical perspective, we are able to start to identify that there are so many instances where the level of performance and the level of productivity we are able to achieve on a day-to-day basis ultimately impacts our bottom line, our employer's bottom line, our family's bottom line, right? So, if we are happier and healthy and have a much stronger uh, kind of core, a stronger ability to maintain positivity and fight off depression, then we're potentially looking at a better family life or a higher quality of life with our interpersonal relationships, whether that's family or friends or even coworkers. So now we're talking about connection and participation indicators, right? How are our family members willing to participate in the events that we plan, in something like everyone sitting at the table at dinner time, or everyone going to that company retreat, right, and actually enjoying it. Um, Now we can also look at things like, okay, if we have better muscle tone, if we have better quality sleep and our mood is better, but also because of that better quality of sleep, our muscles are able to repair and strengthen and build more properly. Our body is able to detox. We're able to regulate our gut health so we don't have a tummy ache maybe throughout the day, or we don't feel the constant need to go reach for that snack or that, the extra sugars to keep our energy pumping. So now we're looking at productivity indicators and health risk indicators and preventative screening indicators. What do I mean by that? I mean, if you are an individual who has a loved one or are an individual who resides in something like a senior living facility, the studies have proven, evidence based research has shown that having a regulated circadian rhythm and an improved circadian rhythm improves balance and improves the rate of falls. So it creates less of a fall risk. And so when we think about a financial indicator from that value, from what is a net savings that spins off of a health risk indicator or a preventative screening indicator, we're talking about the life cycle cost of a broken hip or a fractured wrist. Right? We're talking about medical equipment used in order to repair broken bones or repair tissue damage. We're talking about medications that are being given in order for to tend to pain management of those fractures or their breaks. We're talking about the salaries of the individuals, the doctors and the nurses and the therapists, the physical therapists and occupational therapists who are going to be performing the medical services in order to make sure that you can heal and recover and become well and use those body parts again. We are talking about the energy costs, right, of having to use maybe an operating room for a broken hip or a broken wrist. And then, of course, all of the medical equipment that it takes and the licensing that it takes in order to perform those procedures. So when you think about the life cycle cost of something like a fractured wrist or a broken hip, that can be millions upon millions of dollars for just a single individual. And if we can prevent those types of injuries from happening with something as simple as creating a well tailored and well curated cycled light condition or solution, utilizing light wellness profiles, right, inside in places and facilities like senior living facilities, hospitals, even schools and nurseries and daycare centers, right? We all have the potential for some sort of fall risk, but there are some demographics that are more likely or more prone to falling, and those are younger children and older seniors. So it's so important to understand that that value of investment ultimately translates into a financial indicator, usually in net savings. But what does that look like for someone in that middle ground demographic? You're not a toddler at risk of falling. You're not an aging senior at risk of falling potentially. You've got, you're young, you've got strong bones, your eyesight and your visual acuity is still fully intact, and you're kind of doing good for yourself, right? How do you look at what your wellness goals are and what your value indicators are and how they translate into net savings? Like I said, there are so many ways to look at how our bodies and our well-being are impacted by circadian health. And there are very few medical professionals who understand circadian health to the depth and exploration that lighting scientists do. You would have to have a very specific degree in something like chronobiology to fully understand and appreciate and be able to impart a health and wellness message inside a medical setting, in order to make sure that you are tending to your circadian rhythm. And even then, they don't have a degree in lighting sciences. So they can say you need to, get some morning sunlight for 15 minutes every day, and you need to try to go to bed at the same time every day. But that's about the extent of the support that you're going to get inside a healthcare facility if you're not dealing with a specialist or someone who has a degree or a PhD in chronobiology. So here are some things to take away from this. And again, I'm not a doctor. You should definitely take this information to your doctor, to get their feedback from, your personal clinical performance and kind of health perspective, but B, in order to help educate them as well. Take this information that you're learning and see what they know and see what they're willing to do in order to learn more about it and invest in creating more solid advice and solutions for you from a healthcare perspective moving forward, right? And for their other patients. So remember, circadian rhythms are the foundation of our health and well being, right? Just like a building needs a foundation to stand on, so do our bodies. Right. And all of those pillars of wellness that we typically recognize and understand as important, that we're constantly tending to, that we're constantly juggling in order to take care of ourselves. We're talking about sleep health. We're talking about gut health and nutritional health. We're talking about physical health and recovery, immune system responses. We're talking about cardiorespiratory health. We're talking about hormonal responses in our body, right? All of these pillars of health that we're typically juggling. Are we taking melatonin supplements? Are we drinking lots of caffeine? Are we purchasing are we calorie counting? Are we purchasing specific meal plan regimens or on a diet or a fasting regimen? Are we going to the gym regularly and weighing ourselves, regularly to see what that body mass index is? Are we taking daily supplements, or are we in some sort of hormone replacement therapy, right? There are so many ways that individuals juggle all of these different pillars of wellness in order to maintain some semblance of wellness and balance in their life. And the one thing that people do not even realize that they are forgetting to take care of are their circadian rhythms, because all of those pillars need to rest on something. They need a foundation, and that foundation is our circadian health. And just like a building, right? If you get a crack in the foundation, the whole building's not going to come down at once. I mean, if it's a big crack, you got an earthquake, right? But the whole building eventually will come down as those cracks spread, and the cracks spread to the pillars, and then they hit a fracture point, and then more cracks spread, and eventually over many years, if you have not been taking care of and repairing all of the cracks in that foundation, and consequently the all of the cracks that spread to those pillars, right, and those columns, eventually that building is going to fall down. It's going to be deemed unlivable. It's going to become derelict, and you're going to have to replace it altogether. We can't replace our bodies, right? When we go, that's it for us. So it's important to recognize that when we start getting cracks in the foundation, and the meaning cracks in our circadian rhythm, then these other fractures and stress points in our pillars of health, right? Those columns that stand on that foundation are going to start becoming compromised as well. And then it just becomes an even harder juggling act. Well, I think I'm eating right. I think I'm getting better sleep. It's so hard to say with all of the different things that go into nutrition and physical fitness and sleep and hormonal balancing and immune system responses. Oh, am I getting enough vitamin C? Am I getting enough vitamin D? Am I getting enough magnesium? Am I reducing the amount of, complex carbohydrates and sugars that I'm putting into my body? And at the end of the day, it might be that we just need to take a step back, reset our circadian rhythm through the conscious understanding of how we move underneath our lifestyle of light. and really see if that can create a kind of a new jumping, a starting point, right? Where now we might be able to better tend to all of those pillars of wellness without even really realizing it. Um, there are studies that have been done that show individuals with that they created control groups of individuals who did not change their exercise regimen but changed their lifestyle under light to incorporate cycled lighting and light wellness solutions on a daily basis. And then the second control group were individuals who stayed under the constant light, not, attending to or not living underneath light wellness solutions, but were exercising more. They were asked to increase their exercise sessions to, I think it was about 3 extra times a week. And what they saw was that the individuals who were exercising, 3 times a week versus, and not living under a light wellness solution yielded very similar results in terms of weight loss and mood enhancement as the control group that wasn't exercising but was living a healthy lifestyle under light. So it just goes to show we're not saying don't exercise. We're not saying don't tend to your nutrition. We're saying those are such critical components to your health and well being. But an even more critical component to ensuring that those pillars of wellness and those activities that you are doing in order to maintain more health and well-being outcomes will only be strengthened and enhanced if you're doing it under a light wellness solution and if you are living a light wellness lifestyle. So, just something for you to really, really think about as we are moving throughout the year and as you're looking at all of your spaces and assessing, should I be having a light, an overhead lamp in my bedroom, or should I be having maybe a plug-in night light in my bedroom? Do I need that much light, right? We need a certain amount of light to be able to perform tasks and stay safe and have, safe circulation patterns. But how much do we actually need, right? And where do we need it? So those are just some things to think about as you are trying to decide whether or not you are going to be purchasing lighting products that are going to create a more holistic and healthy light wellness lifestyle for you. And so, with that in mind, I have a couple of lamps or light bulbs here. In the lighting industry, we call light bulbs lamps and we call lamps fixtures, right? So, I have a few here that, we've been talking about the metrics, we've been talking about the positioning and the placement of them and where they belong in your home. And I thought it might be helpful for you to actually see them firsthand as well and to see some of the dimming solutions that are available. I have mentioned that if you don't have a hardwired dimmer on your wall, with your wall switch and it's just on off, that there are other ways that you can dim at least some of the fixtures and the lamps in your space. One of them is just with a little remote plug based dimmer where I have it plugged into the wall. I have the lamp plugged into the outlet that is built into the dimmer as well. And this particular lamp, look at it. It looks like a very traditional A lamp. When I unscrew it, you can see it has a medium screw base. So just like your incandescent lamps, except it's an LED. And it has a higher blue spectral content. Now, this lamp in particular has been spectrally engineered in order to provide more radiant output within that blue spectral range, that 480 to 400 nanometers that is so critical to suppressing our melatonin. But Any LED light is going to have more blue content than a typical incandescent light. So that's why, you read the articles, they say blue light, LEDs are bad. It's too much blue light. It's only bad if you're using them at the wrong time of day and at the wrong orientation and placement within your lighted environment. Otherwise, they are very, very critical to our well being if you are not someone who spends a lot of time outdoors, particularly between the early morning and mid afternoon hours. So if you are someone who spends a lot of time indoors between those times, like 6 a.m. to 3 p.m., get yourself some LED lights and preferably some spectrally engineered ones to support your melatonin suppression. So here we go. Now, the interesting thing about this light, whoops, what are you doing? Of course, it's not working right now. It's because of my base. It's not the light itself, it's the base. I need to get a new one. So the interesting thing about this is that you can see how cool it is on my body, right? And you can see that it's actually a little bit warmer because of the color temperature that it has been programmed as and built into. But the beauty of LED lights is that you can tune and adjust and increase some blue spectral content but maintain a certain color rendering. So remember how we said some of your sources you can look at and see, your red is going to render a little bit more purple, or it's going to pop a little more vibrantly in that red spectrum. If you're using a spectrally engineered source to maintain color rendering across any color temperature, you're not going to have that issue, right? So that's not so common in all light sources, but it is in spectrally engineered sources that support circadian health. So this is not going to be the best example of, oh, there's a lot of blue content in it, so we are going to see my sweater turn a little bit more mauve or purple. That's not going to happen with this bad boy because it's got a pretty good quality LED in it. So what are we seeing? See that when I move the base, it moves on and off. So, what's so special about this? Not only does it dim, but as it dims, it is tuning the light, the spectral radiant output of the light, in order to remove that blue spectrum. So you start to see it get warmer and warmer and warmer and dimmer, right? So now we can see that color temperature has changed, the intensity has clearly changed, right? And now it's a little bit more blue and crisp and white. So something for you to be aware of. Now, this is great for if you are using a floor lamp, especially a floor lamp that has multiple heads on it. You can aim it on you. You can aim it indirectly onto the ceiling and create ambient light. These lamps obviously don't have anywhere near the kind of output that other lamps would, but they're great for your passive light therapy profile where you are getting a low level of light over a longer period of time. So if you have a desk lamp that it's creating light right at that vertical plane, and you're using some sort of a diffusing shade and it's right in front of your eyes, maybe, a foot or two away, you can use that over the course of 3 to 6 hours and get a pretty decent light wellness dose, if you will. I'm sure that many of you have read about seasonal affective disorder and SAD lamps, right? Those are bright light therapy lamps. I'm not saying don't use them. But what I'm saying is that I've experienced those and they are very uncomfortable. And if you are someone who has a severely dysregulated circadian rhythm and you need to very quickly transition and transform your rhythm in order to create a healthier lifestyle, then by all means, do what you got to do. Sit in front of that very, very bright light that has, at least 10 times the amount of light that these do. And realign your circadian rhythm, right? Even better, go outside. It's going to be more comfortable from a visual contrast and glare field, right? But if you need that SAD lamp, by all means do it. Otherwise, and you can sit in front of it for 30 to 90 minutes and probably get something similar to what you would get sitting in front of this for 3 to 6 hours, right? Again, it just depends on what model you're using. Are you using a clinical model where you need to probably clinically realign your circadian health as quickly as possible so you get a higher intensity of light for a shorter duration of time over the course, regularly over the course of the week? Or are you going for a more passive solution and you're just maintaining that circadian balance, or very slowly realigning your circadian system, and using a lower intensity of light for a longer duration of time throughout the day? Either way, you can do it. Um, this is a par lamp, right? This is not like the A lamp shape, like your incandescent. This is a par lamp. It comes in different sizes, depending on who your manufacturer is. This is from the same manufacturer. So you're also going to see the same thing where we have our cooler light with our high blue output, where as we dim and remove that intensity, we are getting a much warmer glow. So you can kind of see that as we're moving through it. It's nice and crisp and white, and now it's getting more amber and amber. You can also see it on my, come on, base, on my body as well. So, right. So we can do those things. Okay. Now, then these are good for your or for your can lights, your recessed lights, and your, in your overall space in your ceiling. You see them a lot in your kitchens, in your living area, maybe, depending on when your building was constructed. The other thing that is so important, when I will say that a lot of individuals say, oh, I get more than enough, healthy daylight throughout the day. Getting a daytime wakeful profile isn't my issue. My issue is my evening sedative profile and what kind of lighting I'm using for that. Now, more times than not, when you are using a nighttime table lamp, it is at a height, if you will, where if you're sitting next to it, it becomes a vertical plane light. And it also, usually, as you see here, this creates an omnidirectional glow where light, can scatter anywhere. So if you have a table lamp where you have a light bulb oriented up, you're pushing that light up, and it will come down a little bit as well. But for the most part, you're going to be getting ambient reflected light off of your ceiling. This is a different kind of solution. It's called a silver bulb solution. This happens to be an LED. They have it in incandescent. And if you are not ready to transition to LEDs yet, even though they consume a significant amount less energy. So if you're someone who is, worried about your energy bill, this is a great direction to go. But the beautiful things about this is that you have that silver bulb on top of it. It pushes all of the light that goes up, it reflects it right back down. And so it keeps more of a low level light solution and maintaining that light below the eye level and pushing it down versus pushing it up so that it can scatter and become ambient light above the eye level, which, as we know, too much ambient light above the eye level, as little as 5 to 10 foot candles over the course of 2 to 3 hours, can suppress your melatonin by 50%. So you want to be really careful about what kind of light sources you're using in terms of their distribution, right? So again, this is dimmable. This is actually warmer. It doesn't include the highest blue spectral content. So this has been designed specifically for an evening sedative profile. You can see it starts out really warm and bright. And then as you dim, it stays warm. It gets, and it just gets dimmer and dimmer and dimmer, right? Until it's off. So these are great for night stands and floor lamps that are, particularly multi-level floor lamps, so that you're kind of pushing that light out and down away from your eye. So I hope that this helps and is, something that you can use these tips and these resources and this new understanding of lamps that are available and modular dimming interfaces that are available or equipments. And Yeah, this has been a very short and sweet wellness workshop. We will be returning to you in 10 weeks. I will drop those dates by the middle of within the next 4 weeks, if you will, by the middle of May. And we'll get back into the normal swing of things and review the workbook. I may update the workbook a little bit. So if I do that, I will let all of you know and send you the updated version if you would like it. But otherwise, I hope that you are staying well, that you have been able to apply these tips and these concepts into your life, that you have a better grasp and understanding of it, um, and that you are able to start seeing transformations in your health and well-being in real time because of these tips that are being provided to you. We are updating the website. So, check back with us in a couple of weeks on www.lightvitalitygroup.com and see what kind of new elements we have available for you to be able to learn and track your light and health and provide more tips and resources for you to be able to start applying light wellness solutions in real time, based on that day, based on your location. And yeah, just kind of keep strengthening and flexing that light wellness muscle. And yeah, that's it for me today. I appreciate it. I know we did not discuss the concept of having too much light. We've talked about not having enough light. So very, very quickly, uh, when you don't have enough light, you live in a state of something called biological darkness, where even though you have light, where you're able to see and have visual acuity and live your life through, from day to night, but you're not receiving the biological elements of light to the point where you're able to suppress your melatonin throughout the day and you're able to release it throughout the night. If you're kind of just keeping this constant mid blue spectral profile in your lighting, and not able to enhance it throughout the day or remove it at night, then your body is not getting that environmental cue that it needs in order to maintain circadian balance. And so we call that biological darkness. And that's what so many of us live in right now. And so hopefully we're able to help you, get out of that darkness and really start tending to your circadian health and preventing any cracks from happening or recovering any cracks in that foundation that are already present. The other aspect is that sometimes we can receive way too much light. Again, if you get too much light throughout the day and especially too late in the day, then you are likely suppressing your melatonin to the point where it's going to be very difficult for you to fall asleep. Our body needs, depending on what age range you are, remember in the beginning of the workbook, we have those recommended sleep hours per age group. Those are evidence-based research. You need to have a certain amount of sleep in order to be able to perform at your best. And that sleep wake pattern is really governed by your circadian rhythm. And so, it's an interesting question where we start to pose is, so if what we experience during sleep helps regulate our overall wellness, and light regulates our circadian sleep patterns, then isn't it time that we understood how to take more responsibility for this critical layer of our well-being, right? I mean, we know that. We know that sleep regulates how well we're able to perform and how well our body recovers. There's so many recovery elements happen while we are in deep sleep. And we know that light regulates those sleep patterns. So why don't we know more about light? And why aren't we doing more to make sure that we're getting the right kind of it, right? But as light and wellness professionals, we know that we do not have control over the ultimate supreme variable, and that's you. That's you and your lifestyle and how you live under light. But we can help you understand what you can do in order to support and enhance your own light wellness profile. So, please reach out at any time. And if you have any questions, drop them in the comments. Let us know how you're doing. Let us know how you're feeling. Let us know if you are having trouble finding ways to build in light wellness applications, whether that's your daytime wakeful or your evening sedative. Let us know if you are seeing health transformations. Yeah, we're here to help any way that we can and to keep the education running for you so that, this is something that you're able to commit to and commit to with ease. Right. So thank you so much. It is always a pleasure to come out and serve you inside these workshops. And I love hearing all of your feedback. So send it my way whenever you can. And yeah, as always, please remember to live lighthearted. And I will see you again in 10 weeks at the next Light Wellness Experience workshop and anytime in between that we're dropping content like it's hot. Take care and stay well.